any sacrifice is in order if it will bring democracy, peace and prosperity to Nigeria.
Imagine striving so hard to be all you know you can be, working tirelessly to achieve your dreams. Then when you can almost taste it, almost feel it, almost grab it, someone up there, one oga at the top, decides you are not worth it, decides you don't deserve it, and goes ahead to make your life a living hell. What would you do?
MKO Abiola, Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, gbogbo Yorùbá, kò bá fọwọ́ ọlá rẹ̀ kàn mí lára.
The life of MKO Abiola was an interesting one. His birth changed the lives of his parents and subsequently those of Nigerians. His life was one of determination, ambition, and purpose. But sadly, that ambition brought him to his untimely end. Hi guys, my name is Kike Lomo. I love to tell stories about African heroes. If this is not your first time, welcome. But if this is your first time, welcome to my channel. I am back again. I am back again. Yes, I am back again. Welcome. Born on 24th August 1937 in Abeokuta, Ogun State, to the family of Suliat and Salawu Wurola Abiola. Abiola, or MKO, was the 23rd child of his father, but the first to survive infancy. His parents named him Kashimawo, meaning let us wait and see. That is, let's wait and see if he will survive. But he was properly named Moshood when he turned 15 years old. His father sold cocoa and his mother sold kola nuts. So he was from a sort of humble background. As a young boy, he assisted his father in his cocoa trade, but when he turned 9, he started his own business of selling firewood, just so that he could assist his father in training his younger ones, because his father's business had begun to fail at the end of 1946. At 15, he founded a band and performed at several ceremonies in exchange for food until he started receiving payments for his performances. He used the money he got to pay for his secondary education at Baptist High School and to support his family, of course. At Baptist High School, Abeokuta, he was the editor of the school magazine called The Trumpeter, and former President Olusegun Obasanjo was the deputy editor. Now, forward to 1960, he obtained a scholarship to study at the University of Glasgow, where he obtained a degree in accountancy and qualified as a chartered accountant. In 1956, before going to the university, Moshood Abiola worked as a bank clerk at the Barclays Bank in Ibadan. Then 2 years later, that's in 1958, he worked at the Western Region Finance Corporation as an executive accounts officer. Can you feel it? Can you feel that our guy today is on to something great? It will be great. When he returned to Nigeria, he worked as a senior accountant at the University of Lagos Teaching Hospital. I almost said hospital. At the University of Lagos Teaching Hospital, then later at Pfizer, and later at ITT Corporation in 1968. ITT is International Telephone and Telegraph. It is a multinational corporation initially focused on providing telecommunication services, but eventually expanded into other sectors, such as technology, defense, and manufacturing. By 1971 only, that's 3 years after, he rose to Chief Executive Officer and Chairman of ITT, a post he held until 1988. When Abiola was employed at ITT as an accountant, he was tasked immediately to do something really important. He was tasked to clear the backlog of debt that was owed to ITT by the military. Abiola set to work immediately. He went for a meeting with the Army's Inspector of Signals, Murtala Mohammed, to seek the repayment of the debts, but an argument ensued. The argument was so loud that the Chief of Army Staff then, Hassan Usman Kastina, heard it and intervened. At the end of it all, Abiola was given a check to cover the debts. Abiola, smart man that he was, used his ability to clear the debts to negotiate for a larger role in the company. He showed his business prowess again when he started a side hustle while still employed with ITT. He started a radio called Radio Communications, RCN. His big idea with RCN was to sell telecom equipment, but instead of just selling it and walking away, he decided to go a step further.
I will take it a step further.
He offered to train military personnel on how to use and operate the equipment by themselves, which was a big deal at the time. The military at the time were trying to upgrade their equipment after the Civil War. So instead of getting foreign vendors to help them maintain and operate it, learning how to operate it in-house was a big deal and a big way to save money. Because of this smart move, Abiola got a contract to supply the military with more equipment. This got the attention of ITT, the big telecom company Abiola was already working with. They were so impressed with how he landed such a big contract that they offered him 49%, a whole 49% equity of their Nigerian arm. Mind you, that is almost half ownership of the ITT Nigerian arm. That was a massive win for Abiola, giving him a large control of the Nigerian arm. But that was not all. RCN helped the Nigerian military build a static communications network, kind of like setting up permanent systems of secure communication. And they also worked on Nigeria's domestic satellite communication system. In 1977, ITT and their other partners, including Abiola, got another big contract to install automatic telephone exchanges in different parts of Nigeria, which was a big step towards improving the country's telecom infrastructure. So in short, Abiola's smart thinking, forward thinking, especially focusing on the military's needs and offering training, led to major business deals and made him a key player in modernizing Nigeria's communication. He didn't just wait for opportunities to come meet him where he was sitting. He created them by understanding what people needed, and he created them in a way that gave him longer term benefits.
Benefits, good.
Abiola had a host of other businesses such as Abiola Farms, Abiola Bookshops, Wonder Bakeries, Concord Press, Concord Airlines, Summit Oil International, and Abiola Football Club.
It is important that one should be very serious with what one wants to do. Nobody can clap with one hand. To clap, you need two hands. Remember, I followed the team to play their match against Nchanga Rangers. We got to Lusaka. We were told by the NFA that the match would be played in Lusaka. We struggled there on the eve of the match to be told that we would be playing in Nchanga. I had to beg for a flight to charter an F-27, fly us to Ndola at 10:30 at night.
He was such a talented businessman that he was even known to fly himself to business engagements. He was also chairman of the G15 Business Council, which was an informal forum set to foster cooperation and provide input for other international groups like the World Trade Organization. Also, he was president of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, patron of the Kwame Nkrumah Foundation, patron of the Webb Du Bois Foundation, trustee of the Martin Luther King Foundation, and director of the International Press Institute. Not only that, in 1983, he started a shipping firm with Shehu Musa Yaradua, Dokbesi, and Bamanga Tukur. Not only was Abiola an avid businessman, he jumped into politics very early. At just 19, when a lot of us were still figuring out what we wanted to do with our lives, and even if we knew what we wanted to do with our lives, a lot of us were not even serious. That's just the truth. Anyway, at 19, he was already a member of the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons. Fast forward to 1979, when the military kept their promise and handed power to the civilians. Abiola was already deep into politics. In fact, in 1990, he joined the ruling party called National Party of Nigeria, NPN, and ended up becoming the state's chairman.
Only to find that the bus driver was drunk. So I drove the bus myself for 3.5 hours. We were stopped by armed robbers 3 times on the road. I had to bribe our way through into Kitwe. They opened fire on us near Kitwe. If I had been killed, what would I tell my children? And see, there has to be moderation in everything that one does. Some of these things we are trying to do, we must try and dose it with some element of realism.
In 1983, there was a re-election and the president from his party, Shehu Shagari, won again. If you didn't know, Shehu Shagari was the first democratically elected president in Nigeria after the military handed over power in 1979. His re-election was a big deal because it looked like Abiola was in the perfect spot to run for presidency himself after Shehu Shagari's term was over. So you see that he was, going well. Things were moving well for him. But then, bam, a military coup happened. This military coup was led by Major General Muhammadu Buhari. Him and a group of senior military officers planned and executed the coup on December 31st, 1983. I'm sorry if you can hear any noise. My neighbor has decided that today he wants to try for the voice. I don't know what's going on, but bear with me. Thank you.
Bless you. God bless everyone. Thank you.
The coup was driven by frustration over widespread corruption, economic mismanagement, and political instability under President Shehu Shagari's administration. The government struggled with high inflation, a debt crisis, and ineffective governance. Just like what one country like that is experiencing today. If you know the country, leave it in the comment section below. The military promised to restore order and tackle the growing problems, hence why they took over the country. So just like that, the whole civilian government was overthrown and any chance of Abiola becoming president, gone. Just like the wind. Abiola was not only involved in politics and business, he was also super involved in his faith. In fact, he was a member of the Muslim group called Ansarudin. I'm not sure I pronounce it well, but I'll leave it on the screen. And through his National Concord newspaper, he started pushing for Islamic causes, like setting up a Sharia court of appeal in the southwest. He even supported Nigeria joining the Organization of Islamic Countries. In fact, he became a big deal in the National Sharia Committee and got this really important title called Baba Adini of Yoruba land. This gave him a lot of respect, especially in the north. Now, fast forward to the 1990s, after almost 10 years of the military rule, people were pressuring General Ibrahim Babangida to bring back democracy. And guess who was ready for it? Guess who was ready to take that opportunity? Abiola. He ran for presidential candidate of SDP with heavyweights like Baba Gana and Atiku Abubakar. And surprisingly, he won. But who would be surprised? I'm not, and neither should you, because we can already see how determined Abiola had always been right from when he was a young child. In fact, in the 1980s, when the Naira tanked and imported textbooks were super expensive, Abiola started producing locally made textbooks. That was when he started Abiola bookshops. And he didn't stop there. He also made sure that essentials like rice and soap were made available to Nigerians at an affordable price. So you can see that Abiola was such a determined, intentional, and kind man. The guy was a problem solver. He was always looking for how to solve problems and help people. So it was no surprise that he was chosen by his party to represent them in the presidential race. In 1993 now, Abiola announced his presidential race, and at this point, military head of state Ibrahim Babangida had already cancelled the previous round of presidential primaries. And like I said, Abiola won and he had secured the presidential candidacy for SDP for the June 12th election. Abiola's campaign was all about hope for the Nigerians. His slogans were farewell to poverty, at last our rays of hope, and the burden of schooling.
My brother, waiting you they think oh, my sister, help don't come, SDP, MKO, Activism, action, MKO, Activism, SDP, progress. Abiola na the logo, SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life. Oh, MKO, 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 action.
He promised to negotiate foreign creditors and manage the country's debts better. Plus, he was all about improving international cooperation and connection. Abiola really tried to portray himself as someone who the world could trust to lead Nigeria into a better and a prosperous future. Now, This is where things get interesting, because just 2 days to the June 12th election, an organization called the Association for a Better Nigeria, led by Chief Arthur Nzeribe, popped up and secured a court injunction to stop the election. Village people. This is what you call village people pro max. But let me not start. Let's continue. They wanted to stop the election because they claimed corruption was involved. Now, this wasn't just any group, they had ties with the military. But the chairman of the National Electoral Commission, NEC, Humphrey Nwosu, wasn't having it. He brushed off the injunction, saying that the courts didn't have the authority to meddle in election matters. So despite the legal drama, they continued. On June 12th, Nigerians went to the polls, and though the turnout was just only about 35%, the election was praised internationally and locally as one of Nigeria's freest and fairest elections. There were a few administrative hiccups, but nothing major like what we have today, like nothing major like violence. Foreign and local journalists, international observers, and Commonwealth delegates kept a close eye on things, and everything seemed to be going well. By June 14th, the results started trickling in, and guess what? Abiola was winning big. Out of 30 states, he had claimed victory over 19 states, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. He swept through the southwest, dominated in the southeast, and even managed to win in parts of the north, including the state of his opponent, Bashar Tofa. Abiola was on track to become Nigeria's first southern president, securing support from all over the country and breaking through ethnic and religious divides. His running mate was his former primary opponent, Babagana Kingipe, and the duo were about to make history, winning about 4.3 million votes to Tofa's 2.3 million. If everything had gone as planned, Abiola would have been declared winner, changing the course of Nigeria's political history forever. But issues of life came to play. Village people put their nose into the matter, and things took a nosedive. On June 15th, the Association for a Better Nigeria, led by Chief Arthur Nzeribe, managed to obtain another court injunction to halt the counting process. This time, the NEC gave in and suspended the counting of results on June 16th, saying it was bound by court order. Despite the legal block, some brave democracy activists leaked the final vote on June 18th, showing that Abiola had won by 58% majority votes. It looked like the people had spoken, but the military had other plans. That's why I say, when you are going, when you are rising, when you are seeing your very before, better pray, because some people don't want you to succeed. Some people don't want you to succeed, but it's not your portion. Somebody say what? It is not my portion. By June 24th, Ibrahim Babangida officially annulled the election, listing things like vote buying and the need to protect the judiciary.
It will continue off and on until the military release the result of the June 12 election and put the democratically elected president, who is myself, in charge of affairs. I won't go to war. I won't encourage my supporters to go to war. I will fight for peace, and I will get peace. But you see, we do not want the peace of a graveyard, a peace whereby somebody continues to ride on the rest of us with a gun.
However, many suspected that the military were just uncomfortable with Abiola becoming president and had been planning to block him from the start. This controversy, this mess, this wahala threw Nigeria into a political crisis that eventually paved the way for General Sani Abacha to seize political power later that year.
We can still say what we want to say, which is the truth, without ruffling anybody's feathers. You see, it's a matter of presentation, and as far as I'm concerned, this is a military government is not an ideal government to have. That's why we are all praying for them.
It is wild, as it is sad, how Abiola came close to changing Nigeria's political history, only for it to be snatched away by forces beyond his control. So, after Abiola's dreams were crushed by the annulled election, things took an even darker turn. I mean, you would think that after that, it could only get better because you're already in the tunnel. So, I mean, you see the light, right? But no, it seems like the tunnel was blocked. General Sani Abacha set up two major governing bodies, the Provisional Ruling Council and the Federal Executive Council. His new cabinet included some interesting figures like, guess. I'll give you 1 minute to get, no, 1 second to guess. Time up. I know you won't guess it. His new cabinet included interesting people like Baba Gana Kingipe. Do you remember who Baba Gana Kingipe is? Baba Gana Kingipe was Abiola's running mate. Now, what do you think? What do you think with everything that happened with Abiola and now General Sani Abacha coming into power and Baba Gana Kingipe now becoming a minister? Because they made him a minister. What do you think? Because me, I'm thinking about it now. And I've come to a conclusion. You think about it and drop your conclusion in the comment section. What do you think? What would you think if somebody that's supposed to be your running mate in an election, then the election mysteriously gets annulled? I mean, everybody's saying that this thing, there are some fingers, that there are some things that are going on behind the veil, and the person who was supposed to be your running mate somehow turned out to be named a minister. I'm not saying he had something to do, but I'm not saying that he did something. I'm not saying it. I don't know, but if you look at it, it looks that way to me. And that's just my personal opinion. What's your personal opinion? What's your own opinion? If you know better, please put it in the comment section. Or if you share the same opinion that I share. But if you have another opinion, put it in the comment section. Let's discuss. Now, back to the story. Abacha also launched a constitutional conference to transition Nigeria to supposedly transition Nigeria back to civilian rule. Sounds hopeful, right? Well, not quite. Majority of the delegates were handpicked by the government, and the PRC had the right to veto any decisions that were made. So, do I need to say it to you, or have you already got to the conclusion yourself? It was a controlled setup from the start. Then it gets hotter. In June, Abiola, tired of the waiting game, declared himself President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Commander-in-Chief. Our guy is not only intelligent, he's not only smart, he's not only business savvy, he's bold. He is what? He is bold. But anyway, let us continue. Now, like I said, our guy is bold, but his bold move landed him in prison with a tag of committing treason.
What is happening at your house? Are you being arrested?
I'm being arrested. I'm just going out now with the police.
But this move of putting him in the prison did not sit well with a lot of Nigerians. In fact, it's not sit well with a lot of people, both Nigerians and those outside. Workers in petroleum, banking and academic sectors went on strike, and this strike lasted for 9 whole weeks. That's 2 months and a week. The strikes, especially that in the oil sector, brought the economy to its knees. But in response to that, trust now, if you don't know Abacha's story, go and read up on Abacha's story. Nobody tries Abacha. Abacha, in response to that, cracked down hard and arrested union leaders. He also sacked the civilian members of his cabinet. Can you feel the heat? Because me, I can feel the heat. By March 1995, things escalated when the government claimed, that's the military government, claimed there was an alleged coup attempt. Kudirat Abiola, the wife of MKO Abiola, played a crucial role in this whole saga. When Abiola announced himself as president in 1994 and he was arrested, Kudirat stepped up as an advocate for her husband. She became a public face of the struggle to get him released and to reverse the annulled election. Now, if you don't know Kudirat's story is also a heartbreaking, heart-wrenching story and a sad chapter in the Abiola's family's fight for democracy. Her sacrifice was and is still and will still be remembered as the personal cost of the political struggle in Nigeria. Kudirat didn't stay in the shadows. She organized protests, spoke at rallies, and boldly spoke against General Sani Abacha's regime. Her activism was bold, especially considering how difficult and how dangerous it was to challenge the government at that time. Sadly, just like her husband, her activism came at a very heavy cost. I've already done a video on the life of Kudirat and the price that she paid fighting for democracy in Nigeria. I'll leave the link somewhere in this video, either in the description or somewhere around. But if you didn't know, on June 4th, Kudirat was assassinated in Lagos. She was shot in her car while campaigning for her husband's release. Her death shocked the nation.
We are involved in 3 assassinations.
Yes.
Okay, yes. And that in one of that, the only one you personally handled,
yes,
only one person died.
Yes, sir.
You didn't tell us who that person was.
Elijah Kudirat Abiola.
Fast forward to October 1995. Abacha announced a 3-year plan to hand over power back to the civilians. But a lot of people were skeptical. I mean, this is Abacha we're talking about here. And just as people were watching and waiting, General Sani Abacha suddenly died. And a month later, in a tragic twist of events, Abiola also died on July 7th, 1998. For 4 years, Abiola sat in a prison cell refusing to give up his mandate. But in July 7th, 1998, Abiola was invited to a meeting for his release. Before that could happen though, he mysteriously collapsed and died. Up till today, rumors swirl about what really happened in that room. Unfortunately, Abiola died without seeing his wife for over 1 year after he was imprisoned before her own unfortunate assassination. Though he never got to sit in the president's chair, MKO Abiola's legacy as the president who never was lives on. His story is a personal reminder of how difficult sometimes that is not easy. That's the only thing I can say. It's not easy. I mean, he did everything that he could have done, but somehow it just didn't work out. So he's a reminder that life can life sometimes, and it's not easy, and it's just not easy. If this story inspired you, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, and comment. What do you think Nigeria's history or Nigeria would have been today if MKO Abiola had won? He did win the election, but had become the president of Nigeria. What do you think Nigeria would have been like today?